If you enjoy truthful and heartfelt conversations to inspire you to become a better version of yourself, Empowering Stories will help you. Hello, Andrea. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. How are the two of you?
We're doing really well, yes. The baby it's moving so much and growing fast.
Oh, that's so fantastic. Andrea and I met last October in Egypt, no less, at this event that Nassim and Sarah put together, Nassim Haramein. And it was just beautiful, beautiful. And it was such an inspiration to see you and your husband. And well, your little wall was the size of a lentil, maybe, so we didn't see much of that. And your sister as well, your sister Sophia, who has already been in the program. It was so inspirational to see the whole family there. So for that, thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was awesome to be there with the people I love.
I suppose, yeah. So it was an adventure not to ever forget, ever. Since Sophia was here in the program, she loves you so much. And she said, oh, Andrea has a lot to say because she's so passionate about health and nutrition and energy work. And she's so knowledgeable. And she was singing your praises on and on and on. So I said, end the program.
That's really sweet. Well, I like her a lot too.
I can tell. So for years you've been digging and learning about health. And as you were saying before we started the recording, health encompasses everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe you can tell us a little bit of each one of the areas that you think that health is wrapping itself around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll get into it, and I'll be asking you dumb questions.
Well, yeah, so for me, the journey to understanding health started with the physical aspect of nutrition because of things that happened in my family and my childhood growing up. When my sister and I were little, our parents, my family, we were very mainstream and very unhealthy. We had a lot of health issues, and my parents had an experience where they almost lost my sister due to medical negligence. And so that kind of opened their eyes to start researching health for themselves and researching how to cure my sister and how to help her through their own understanding of health, right? Rather than just depending on hospitals, which is what they were doing at the time. So they kind of started going on this journey of understanding nutrition, and they made changes over the years. But when I was in high school, 16, I had to change schools. And instead of going to a different high school, I decided I'm just going to leave high school. I'm going to take the GED, graduate, and study health, because I knew that at that point, I knew that I was really passionate about that and that that's what I would want to study. So I decided to just start college right away. And I started studying like crazy, just reading a ton of books, getting, working on my degree. And but for the most part, everything I know has come just through my own research, not through a curriculum from a school, but just through reading endless books and taking classes and meeting people and that kind of thing. And so since I was 16 is when I started researching deeply about nutrition and about health, and I started applying everything I learned to myself. And I got rid of I had chronic migraines growing up my whole childhood, and I was just unhealthy in general, low energy, bloated all the time, that kind of thing. And I really just transformed my health just through what I was learning about nutrition. But of course, one thing leads to another, to another, to another. And when you start understanding and reading and digging into true nutrition, that leads, naturally, that leads into spirituality, that leads into emotional health, that leads into, even politics and things like that. Like everything is just it's amazing how it's such a web. So very soon after starting to research that, I got very passionate about kind of like the mastery of my own mind, right? So realizing how out of control most people tend to be with when it comes to our thoughts, the thoughts that we have, and how compulsive those are normally, right? How they're very programmed, and most of the thoughts we have, they're not conscious thoughts that are coming from a still place of being in tune with yourself. They're just kind of like these programs on repeat, and they're impulsive. And so I got very interested in that, because I realized how a thought would shape an emotion, which would create a feeling in my body, right? So a lot of and then feelings, that the way that you feel, the energy that you're generating within yourself, that creates your state of health, and that creates the space within which you perceive the world, right? Which in turn affects your actions, which in turn affects, it's like this loop, and then you're back to your thoughts. So I got really passionate about basically the concept of becoming still inside and mastering your mind as a priority when it comes to health. I realized, like, whoa, before trying to get my diet perfect and like my nutrition perfect and trying to do all these healing therapies, I need to address like zone 0 first, which is like my mind and my state of being. So I got really inspired to learn about that. And I mean, that could be a lifelong journey, right? That's definitely.
Because in approximately 5 minutes, we've gone from eating a sandwich to sort of going to the moon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's
you started with the food, your health improved, but then as you were digging into what's behind the food, you realized that there was more influence of our thoughts, our recurring thoughts, than it was the actual food that we put in our mouth. Is that correct?
Well, I realize that it's just as important, because it's the food is what you physically put into your physical body, but the thoughts that you're putting into your mind, that's as impactful in shaping the person that you are as the food you're eating. So to just get really caught up in the physical aspect of a perfect lifestyle without addressing what you're putting into your mind, into your into your heart, into your space, like that, it's it has to be like all of it, and that of course goes into, for example, what you feed your mind with media, and what you watch, and what you engage with, and the type of concepts that you allow yourself to entangle yourself with, and that kind of thing, because it's all, we're energetic beings, we're spiritual beings and physical beings. And so everything that you put into yourself in any one of those methods, produces the outcome. It produces the outcome of who you're able to be. And so, I guess that's in a nutshell all kind of the health that I'm really passionate about.
So it's everything at the same time. Is the energy, which is untangible but measurable, is thoughts that you cannot measure, not touch, and there's solid parts of it, which is the food that you put in your mouth. Well, behind it, there's a lot of energy, because most of it is energy anyway. But touch it, you can measure it, you can pay for it.
Right.
Those are different levels.
Right.
You start all of them at the same time?
No, usually one will lead into the other. Like, for example, and it doesn't, in my experience, it doesn't really matter too much which one you start with, because, like, for example, if you start with purifying your diet and really clearing out what you physically put into your body, and cleaning out your food and your water and your air, your body will become more able to perceive, more clear within itself, and you'll become more sensitive to those energies and to those thoughts, and more aware of that, the kind of energy that you're generating, and the kind of energy that you're perceiving from this, environment around you. So it'll naturally kind of, lead to that. And then likewise, if you begin with the more spiritual aspect of learning how to, become still inside, clearing out your thoughts, becoming the master of your emotions and your inner space, that will naturally make you want to put pure foods into your body. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it doesn't really matter where you begin with all of this, because the second you start improving yourself, our bodies and our souls, our higher selves want to do good. They want to develop and achieve the highest potential. That's what our body is constantly fighting for, that, and it's constantly regenerating itself, and it's just mind blowing the resilience that it has. We can do anything to it for years and years and years, and it'll try and it'll fight and it'll constantly be aiming for, for achieving its healthy state, its optimal state. So it's amazing when you give it a little, when you start working with it a little bit in any one of those areas, it's just this big spiraling effect where your soul, your body, everything wants to go there. It wants to feel good. It wants to feel in tune with love and with peace and with joy. And I feel like that's our natural state, that we're kind of, so you give it a little bit, to go there, and the whole universe kind of helps you.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, riding a rocket now, because just hearing you, I can feel that energy, because it's pure, it's a lot of it, and it comes through the screen. So it's very contagious. What happened to your life, your friends, your body once you started this journey? Well, your body, you already said that your health was improving. And I can tell that minus the belly, you are very slim. Your skin looks amazing. And around you and your husband, I could feel this kind of hum, like around, because you were still all the time, still and happy. No still and looking, yeah? I mean, like a stiff. No, it was this calmness that the two of you were oozing out. Like nothing could faze you. That's what I saw, and that's what I sensed from the outside. How is it from the inside?
Yeah, from the inside. So the inside journey at first, it's exciting and it's a shock, right? When you start to realize, I'll mention, so the first thing that kind of opened my eyes to this concept of becoming the master of your inner self was a book called Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Have you read that one?
Yes.
Yeah. So I read that one, and that was what initially kind of like made me consciously realize that concept of, wait a sec, who's controlling us? What's controlling this mind, these emotions? And like, I realized, whoa, that wasn't me for all these years. Like, that's kind of weird. So I'm going to, try to make it be me. And at first it's so exciting because the progress is so fast. You're going from not being aware at all to all of a sudden having this awareness of what's going on inside you. And, so at the beginning I was like, I'm going to be enlightened in like a year. This is awesome. And it's shocking because it's really like, it's shocking to realize the depth to which, and it's still shocking to me, because the more layers you peel away, the more sensitive you become to these layers of kind of programming that we have. And it's just shocking the degree to which we're not just, how to explain it, the degree to which we're not just expressing our own authentic inspiration and like embodying our own authentic higher self and soul and generating our own experience, like the degree to which that is controlled and programmed by, by society, by the people around you, by media is a huge one, by all of these things. It's just really shocking, right? So becomes shocking, but it's exciting because you see the progress, right? You become more and more convinced for yourself as you, for example, for me, when I started to realize, wait a sec, emotions aren't compulsive. They don't have to be. They were for me for my whole life, but they don't have to be. It's not like I have to be upset if something, upsetting happens. I don't have to get angry. I don't have to get sad. I have that choice of stopping, kind of like perceiving something, and before I make a judgment about it that creates an emotion because it makes me feel, devalued or attacked or betrayed, or before going there, I have this space where I can perceive something, stop, and choose to interpret it in a way that doesn't create negativity for myself, right? Choose to just accept it. Well, that's just that person's experience, or, it is what it is. I don't have to turn that into a good or bad judgment. And that provides like this relief space where the emotion is no longer a compulsive negative one, right? You're able to kind of be like, oh, there was no emotion that followed that. Even though this was an upsetting situation that in the past would have, very, justified me in feeling a certain way. Yeah, it's like, and so when you realize that you have the power to control your emotions, which in turn controls like how you feel, whether you're happy, whether you're peaceful, it's like a superpower. It's like I can be peaceful no matter what. And you realize your state of being and your quality of life depends fully on yourself, not on anybody else and not on anybody around you. And that's the most empowering thing I think anybody can realize, is that we're responsible for the life that we experience. And I think the mind resists that a lot because it means that you can't be a victim anymore, you know? But when you realize that you have, your happiness is your own responsibility, and your experience of life is in your hands and it's in your control. It's the most liberating, empowering thing possible, I think, because that makes it so that you now have to deal with all your issues, but at the same time, it makes it so that the potential to really be who you want to be is now actually yours, and you actually have that. Whereas if that were to depend on somebody else or external circumstances, that's disempowering. That's not, it makes the ego feel good because you're justified in being upset, or you're justified in being, indignant about something or whatever. Does it really help you at the end of the day? So I think for me, inwardly, that journey in realizing, coming to realize the full depth of self-responsibility, like the full, the full depth to which we are responsible for our own experience. That was kind of like, the main driving force, the main kind of curve of realizing like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, it's shocking, and then you just come to, it's empowering, which is, it's just empowering, and it's amazing, and I'm so grateful that that's the case, because now I have the power to shape my experience. And so that's kind of like on the inside what that looked like, and on the outside, it's definitely been kind of like a full circle thing. Initially I lost all my friends because I realized I did not want to be engaging in the things they were engaging in. I didn't want to, gossip the way they were gossiping, or, watch the things that they were watching, or doing the things they were doing for entertainment. And, so here I was at 16, like only interested in becoming enlightened, and my friends were all, into other things. And so I definitely lost pretty much all my friends for a few years, like many years actually. But now what's funny is that they're all kind of like one by one, little by little, they're all kind of coming back into my life, and we're reconnecting at a very different level, at a very different space, because they've now gone through their own journeys and, come to realize, certain things. And so we're, and the most amazing thing is that, it's sad to lose people. You lose what's no longer compatible with the lifestyle and the life that you are building for yourself. You lose everything that's not compatible to that. but you gain, I mean, you gain so much more. And it's amazing how you meet the right people too. So throughout the years, like I've met the most incredible people just randomly, right? Like at,
So they call it.
right, at the grocery store, or at, just walking out on the street, or you have the most synchronistic, beautiful, incredible encounters. And so, you lose people, but you also gain so much, and gain so many new friends and acquaintances and relationships. And as far as the people lost, like the ones that were meant to come around and be in your life again, they do eventually. It just, it's a bit of a process. It's so worth it. It does feel, I mean, I think it's different for everybody. Some people have an amazing support group or community, but I know that it definitely can feel very alone to kind of make that decision to, I'm going to take responsibility for my life, and I'm going to eat different. I'm going to engage with different things. I'm going to, it can feel very lonely for sure, because, it seems like there's not.
It's unfamiliar. Everything is very unfamiliar, and you don't know what's on the other side, because what's
Right.
known is what's known. Yeah.
Right. And it's hard, it's also, it's kind of like, it's the harder path in a sense, because it requires you to, it's so much easier to just say, oh, screw it, I don't feel good, I'm going to go, I don't know, I'm going to go to this party, or I'm just going to eat this food because, everybody else is, and I don't want to deal with the social awkwardness of, eating different. And well, it's hard to kind of be that, one making different decisions, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And the people who are aligned with that do come into your life, and then it's just, I mean, it's hard, but it's rewarding. So it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know very well the social awkwardness of everybody eating something, and then I go, I'll just have sides.
Right.
Everybody is eating animals, and I don't want to eat animals, so I'll just have sides.
I'll have a side salad, please. Yeah.
I know that, yeah. Some kinds of, they offer you fish, as if fish were not animals. Well, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
As if they were not part of the zoo, but it doesn't matter. And I understand that very well. Yeah. And Prince Andrea, now that she's enlightened, pretty much. No, I'm joking, because that what you were saying before is very important. It's all the layers that we're peeling. So it's one little layer or one thick layer at a time, and there are more layers and more layers and more layers.
Right.
That we either were born with, we were programmed since childhood, we inherited from our ancestors, or from our unborn children in this lifetime, because everything happens at the same time. So it could be coming from anywhere, right?
Exactly.
Or
yeah.
ETs or the ants, I don't know, but there's a lot of stuff to be peeled. However, now you have this clear vision that you are unstoppable, that you can have the experiences that you want, and overall you can choose how to experience those experiences. I wanted to avoid the word, but I couldn't find a way around it. You can choose how to go through life and what to experience and how. What is it? What have you chosen? Do you have a plan? There's a map of the road ahead of you, or just, I'll jump and the floor will show up?
Yeah, so when I've tried making plans for the future, there's like a funny way that the universe, doesn't always happen. If the focus is on the future, it tends to not work. So what I realized is my plan is, and always just has to be, first and foremost, just now, who I am right now, right this second, because that's the point of power for shaping the future, and for clearing the past, and for understanding and assimilating, and getting through those layers that you were talking about. So I've definitely gone through phases of really trying, like I said earlier, I'm like, I thought I would be enlightened in a year. And like, I had all these expectations for the future, and it's, it's not like that, because that is what life is that process of going deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's almost like never ending. But at the same time, if you're able to maintain that awareness here and now, it's always perfect and it's already complete, you know? So it's for me, the way I kind of go through it is my main focus and my main goal is always first and foremost being here, being present, being in my body, being in, aware of my space, being in charge of my mind, my emotions, just being present. And from there, then the decisions you make are so powerful. And the decisions you make are so, I mean, they all happen in such a magical way, because there's nothing, because how do I explain it? There's such a point of power and clarity with being here, that the action of making something happen in my external life is boiled down to something so simple. There's no all the complicated nuances around, making a plan and having it actually come to fruition. All that complicated stuff disappears, and it turns into something as simple as there's a tangible next step to take, and you take it, and that's that. Everything just actions are just kind of like shells at that point, versus before, if there's turmoil in here, and if I'm not living in the now and I'm kind of in that future space, or worrying or concerned, or there's so much complicated energy that comes up with that, like complicated fears and doubts around interactions I'll have to make, or people I'll have to talk to, or how am I gonna convince somebody about this to make this happen. And that all of that just disappears when you just focus on being here, and you can make that decision. Okay, this is what I want. Where is the first step? And then you just take that one simple, clear first step, and then there's a next step, and then there's a next step, and then there's a next step, and it becomes very simple, versus trying to see the whole path ahead of you, and understanding steps that you can't see what, the 10th step looks like if you won't even take the first step. So for me, it's always just becoming present, taking that first step, and then the second step always reveals itself so clearly. And then once you take the second step, the third step will be so clear, So for me, I've kind of stopped trying to make or hold a lot of plans and expectations. But it's funny, because that doesn't mean that you can't know where you want to go in life. It just means that I always use the example of like when you know you want to go to the grocery store, for example. There's this store named Barron's 15 minutes away from my house, right? So when I think I want to go to Barron's, I'm not worried about like, what's the road going to look like at, 2 miles from here. And then I wonder if there's going to be a car at that turn. And then, you're not thinking of all those things, because it's there. It's simple. You're just going to get in your car and you're going to drive, right? So when you can have that kind of presence and assurance with things that you want to see in your own life, like I know that that's what I want, but I'm not going to worry about every single turn and aspect of getting there, because I know it's there. I want it. It's there. It's already there, because like you were mentioning, everything happens at once. There's no time and space, really. Like once you really feel and think and envision what you want with that clarity, it's there. And all you have to do is walk towards it.
Yes, correct.
It's pretty simple. Just make sure that the actions you're taking now, the thoughts you're thinking now, the feelings you're feeling now, are they aligned with where you want to go? And if they are, then that's all you have to do. If they're not, then, well, okay, maybe I should maybe I should do something about that, because if my goal is to be, to have my own homestead and be peaceful and have, time to work in the garden and be with my children and be happy and be in tune with the energies of nature and the cycles of nature, but right now I'm feeling angry and I'm harboring resentment and I'm going to bed late and I'm not eating healthy. It's like, well, you're always going somewhere, right? You're always moving somewhere. Life isn't neutral. There's no possible way you can ever be in a neutral space. You're always going somewhere. So I got to be like, wait a sec, these actions I'm taking are not aligned with that. So I need to, in the present moment, shift my actions, shift my thoughts, shift my feelings so that they are aligned with that. And that's all I can ever do.
Because every step counts. It's not like in the future I'm going to be happy with my kids in the garden sunbathing if
Right.
today I'm being a perfect bitch and
Yeah.
shouting at everybody. Every step counts. Every
Yeah.
step is creating something.
Because it's now that your life is being created. So there's no such thing as in the future I'm going to be happy, but right now I'm going to justify being angry. Or in the future I'm going to be peaceful, but right now I'm going to justify, harboring this resentment and not forgiving somebody or whatever. There's no such thing as that. And that's I think one of the biggest things I've realized is that, the only point of power in your life that you have that really matters is just right now. And
Yeah.
so to always take action to come back to that space of peace and joy and that space that's aligned with what you want to see in your life. And that's why to me it's like it's the most important thing that anybody could possibly do, even if on the outside it looks like, they're just sitting there doing nothing, but like to to take care of that inner space and to be responsible for that inner space and to, you know, stop. If you realize you're off track, stop and do whatever you need to do. That might look like eating something, or that might look like going out and, sitting out in the sun for a few minutes and just breathing the sunlight in. And it might look like reading something inspirational, whatever that looks like, but always, taking the action to bring yourself back into alignment with who you want to be, and then moving forward so that you can, for as much as possible, be creating, you know, things in your life that are conductive to what you want to see there, versus if you don't take that moment to stop and bring yourself back, you just keep taking action and action, and then it becomes harder to bring yourself
Yeah,
back.
it's a huge wall. Yeah.
Yeah, it
I was,
snowballs.
yeah, exactly. I was thinking of two examples, Andrea, if you allow me. One is when we start studying a degree. You said at 16, I just left everything because I knew what I wanted to do at that moment. When now was now, you said, this is what I want to do. And there are so many students who go for a degree or forever, whatever kind of studies they decide, thinking of the future. Or I'm going to study this degree because it's going to allow me to work in a factory and I'm going to be financially independent from my parents and I can move away. For instance, that's not now, that's in the future. So you're set for failure there because it's not what you want to do now. Maybe what a student wants to do now, well, apply apart from partying or playing video games, it could be something different, but they have this pressure from people around of what are you going to do next.
Mhm.
So that's a bad decision. And another point in life that I was thinking is, oh, when we get married, I'm going to change him,
Right. Nope.
change her or whatever. Oh, this is now because we're just dating, but when we're together all the time, I'm going to change that.
Mhm. Nope.
No.
Not how it works.
And those are two examples, but every tiny decision has an influence in everything. It's like, how am I going to be slim if I'm going to eat 3 chocolates every day,
Right.
every hour?
Yeah.
Every decision counts. Every single decision counts.
Yeah, I like those examples a lot because they're two really common, very common ones, and very,
So,
yeah. Yeah. And I think, like, for example, the college career example that you gave, I think something so important to realize is that the universe is unlimited in the possibilities of how things can happen for us and how we can, what we can achieve and how we can achieve that. But people are so boxed into thinking that things work a certain way, right? Like if I want to be financially independent, I have to get employed at a position that gives me, a good payment, a good job, for which I have to get this degree, for which but there's so many ways that a young person could become financially independent, right? And so to try to limit your life and your, like you said, like sometimes your heart wants something, but you do something different because you think that's the only way. But your heart and your soul have, you know, they can see so much more than likely you're able to see in the moment because of, all that programming and stuff. And so to develop almost a degree of trust and faith, right? That you're what you're feeling, when you can become in tune with yourself in the present moment, your heart will usually tell you what it wants. Your heart will usually tell you, this is what I would love to be doing. And usually that's not going to lead you to a place of failure. It's not going to lead you to a place of like, now I didn't achieve any of my dreams because I followed my heart. Like, that's just not how it works. If you are able to follow your heart, all these things can happen in ways that you never imagined. And you might become financially independent in a totally different way, right? One that you never thought was possible, one that you never imagined could ever work in today's society. But there it is, because you did what was right in the present moment for your true self, for your higher self, for your heart. And so, yeah, you almost need like this kind of faith in that anything is possible, right? And because you have to break free from your own limitations somehow, which is hard because they're there, which means that you are, your capacity for imagining certain things, it is limited in a sense, until you break through those layers more and more and more. But yeah, I guess that faith is just necessary, that there is so much more than we're able to see, and there's so much more possibility in the universe and abundance and than we're able to even conceive of, so you're not going to experience that if you're not open to it. So it's like you almost have to be open to it first, and then you can experience it. But that definitely requires a leap of faith. So it's hard, and but yeah.
But the
Definitely.
rewards are huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, nothing's gonna happen in the future. If you're unhappy with the person you're with right now, you better fix that right now. Don't wait till you're married. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Andrea, that you knew what you wanted. It was health. Health, starting that journey into health led you to so many things and to this path to enlightenment, whichever way it is. At the same time, you need to buy stuff for your baby, nappies and jumpers and stuff. How do you marry to follow your path, to listen to your heart and to your higher self, and this 3D world in which you go to the supermarket and you need to exchange a credit card for woods?
Right. It comes back down to just that presence and that stillness, the ability to stop the strong narrative of right and wrong that goes on inside of us. So when you start digging into all of this, and you start to see so much more than you saw before, right? It definitely comes with a very difficult feeling of like, well, how am I going to interact at all with the world now? How am I going to interact with society? How am I going to? But it's almost like the journey is not complete there. You have to it's not complete until you come back to the place and space and understanding of everything simply is. Life simply is, things simply are. And that's, everything that is has a right to be, in a sense. And we're here experiencing this 3D world. Like, this is just the way I perceive it. I'm not trying to claim that this is the way things are, but the way I perceive it is that, there's this source that is describable in words. I think the closest I can describe is just like the I am, right? Just the am-ness of, creation. And then that I am wondered, well, what could I be? Right. And so it went on this journey of trying to experience everything that it could be. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's like everything that the I am can be is kind of manifesting and experiencing itself and going through that journey of understanding itself and coming back to that understanding of, even though it looks like all these different things, at the fundamental core of it, it's just the I am. It's that same energy, that same being. So when you can kind of like understand and really feel, more than just understand, because that's intellectual and that doesn't help very much, but when you can really feel that everything simply is, and you can take away the judgment of it should be or it shouldn't be, or that's right or wrong, or that's, everything just is. If it's existing, it is, and therefore it has a right to be. Then there's no problem. You can go into that store, you can interact with the grumpy cashier, you can exchange your diapers or whatever you're trying to like buy or you do, or and you can come home and you're completely freed of that kind of like constant narrative of looking at society and judging it and seeing how, oh, and see, that's where the root of the problem is, and this is affecting us, and that's bad for the environment, and this is, you can let go of all of that and just experience everything, because it is, at the end of the day, it is. If it's there, it is. Right, it is what it is. And so to have that kind of freedom from judgment, I guess, is the key that I've found to being able to not only interact with society, but interact with the world in a very joyous way, where you're loving all of it, because at the end of the day, that's, what's the point in being so enlightened if you're going to go around harboring judgment for the things in your life, and harboring judgment for the people in your life and the people you witness, as if, because at the end of the day, that's just a lack in understanding that there isn't really that much separation between you and them. And there isn't really that much separation between anything, really, So for me, having all these, understanding all this only is good to the extent to which I'm able to be an unconditionally loving person. and
Wow.
that yeah, so that implies that not going through the world judging all these things as better or worse or bad or good. And it's funny because that, I think a lot of people think that judgment is necessary in order to make decisions, because you might be wondering, like, well, then how do you ever, why do you decide then to eat something organic versus not organic if everything's the same and you're not judging it as bad? But we don't need, I don't think judgment is necessary for the process of decision making. Decision making can come from a neutral place of joy and peace, um, and just feeling and knowing what you want to experience, and that's where you make the decisions from. And it
Yeah,
doesn't,
that's very interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so that judgment of placing value of right and wrong, of good and bad, of, that doesn't have to be there, and that doesn't mean that you're not gonna be, empowered to make the decisions you want to make and to go in the direction you want to go. And what's funny is that when you're able to stop that judgment and you're able to accept everything and approach everything with such acceptingness and love and openness, you end up affecting the world around you at a much more powerful level than if you were to approach it with, thinking like, this is bad for the environment, so I'm going to fight this, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to be feel resentment every time I talk to these people. Like, you're not going to get very far doing that. There might be, of course, external shifts that happen or whatever, but so it's almost like your mind doesn't want to let you go to that space of non-judgment, because it feels like it's going to lose its power, it's going to lose its edge.
Yeah.
But it's such a more powerful space, and you almost affect people and things around you without without even having to say anything. It's almost through osmosis that it happens then naturally, and you see it more and more with all these synchronicities that start to come in, and you meet people, you affect situations, and you're like, wow, like that required no effort, and it resolved itself and it harmonized itself, and now this aspect of my life just it's totally aligned with what I wanted, and I didn't even have to put in that kind of like fighting or struggling energy into trying to resolve it. So I guess to answer your question, that was a long answer, but how you reconcile, all these beliefs or whatever with then functioning in society is just to not see it as separate, to be able to see beyond that illusion that they're so separate, because they're not. It's society is here and it is a part of this world, and it does exist, and it's fundamentally, has that right to exist. So who are we to go, it's just not helpful to go in judging it, because that separates it, that cuts, that like chops the universe into a bunch of different pieces, you know what I mean? And that's not there's one universe, there's one, one I am at the bottom of all of this, at the depth and center of all of this. So it's silly to kind of like try to chop it all up and think that you're here and something else is here and somebody else is here. It's like, it's so silly, because it's not chopped up into a billion different separate pieces. It's all one. It's all connected. So just to accept it as that, to see it as everything just is, and then that gives you the freedom to just be happy, to joyously engage with society and powerfully make your own decisions to accept certain things, to engage with certain things, to make your life look a certain way. And you can have that while being happy and while being free of resentment and judgment. And
Yeah, I was thinking of a very 3D example of these concepts that you're sharing so eloquently. I'm very down to earth, so I like thinking of things that I can imagine in my head easily. And it could be, for instance, with food, that this lack of judgment could be, I am health. Therefore, I choose to experience a healthy way of eating. So you're not saying this chocolate is bad and it's going to go to my ass and stay there forever. That's the judgment. And we're already eating something with an energy that it's not adding to this loving experience that we can have. We can choose, I am health, therefore I choose to eat healthy, and I want to experience a healthy body. And then we'll just flow naturally, even if we eat one chocolate every now and then, because I also want to experience the flavor of it in my tongue, but I don't need to eat the whole box.
right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. I wanted to ask you as well, Andrea, professionally, do you share all this wisdom with people?
Yeah, so I started seeing clients for nutrition consultation and like health consultation a while ago. This was a couple years ago. And I wasn't having too much fun with it, because I realized that very few people are willing to do what it takes, to really change because so most people just want, something easy for me to tell them, like, here's your meal plan and that's going to heal your health problems. And but the truth is that your health is a result of your lifestyle, which is a result of who you are as a person. So if you want to change your health, you have to change yourself. And it's kind of true. It's you have to change yourself. And I found that most people who were coming to me for nutrition, guidance and that kind of thing, they weren't willing or ready to or wanting to change themselves. It's like, whoa, that's more than I got myself into. So I was realizing that to see any results, I had to, handhold and convince and train and really like put so much energy into convincing these people to want to change what they needed to change in order to see the results. And I found that kind of exhausting and not very rewarding. So then I I kind of got I started around that time studying more body work and energy healing and that kind of modality. So professionally now, what I really, really enjoy is doing body work and energy healing on people, because that allows them to really feel a shift. And it's a much more creative process for me, rather than just, sitting there trying to come up with like, okay, here are the studies. If you need the proof, here's the science. Well, this is a much more kind of like creative and limitless. The possibilities are more limitless with this kind of work. And I think it's also just when people feel a shift in themselves, then they're more willing and able to be like, oh wow, that's something I want, because I like feeling that way, right? And so kind of I do like to integrate the little nutrition advice here and there, and
Yeah.
and giving the person tools that they can do to heal themselves, because ultimately nobody can heal you. You have to heal yourself, and that's what people have to realize, is that you can't expect anybody anywhere to heal you. You have to heal yourself. But my passion is, I guess, opening that doorway through energy work, which is just so fun, and it's also so healing. Like when you perform energy work, you heal yourself at the same time. So it's kind of like,
Yes.
I don't know, it's fun.
And it makes a lot of sense to do it that way, because first is energy, then is matter. If you're trying to change matter with matter, so you're going to eat this and you only the things with a tick in the box, that's for the mind is just no way, and for the body either, because the body is used to something and wants that fix. But then you're changing energy, you're changing the energy, and the energy affects the matter. Because the matter is affected, then those changes can happen. So we are going from the matter to matter, from the Newtonian world into the quantum world. So things can happen overnight. So it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Where can people find you, Andrea, to wrap it up?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, unfortunately, my website's having issues right now with the URL. So I can't give you that right now. The best I can do is my email address, which is Andrea Sanchez at startmail.com. And that's
okay. We'll put it here, and when the website works, you let us know, and we'll put it in the description of the video so everybody can find you there.
I will, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, Andrea, what a pleasure having you here. Hear all that passion, feeling, sensing all that passion. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you so much for having me. That was really fun.
Thank you. Whenever you want to come back, you'll be more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Anne.